Hey, 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 hey. And the hey, everybody. This is Dan coming to you, somewhat alive from Japan. That's what we're doing, right? We're doing the mainstream where we say mainstream many times. And every time I say mainstream or somebody else's mainstream, you take a shot of coffee. Not vodka, right? Right, James? That's not vodka, is it?
You never know what's in there, pal. Never.
Well, okay. Let's not give let's not give Brian any ideas. Well, welcome. So today we have like some Cardano, stable genius rock stars. Yeah, that's like the most stable. The most stable of all the Cardano cabal.
You're calling Blockjock stable? I don't know, man.
Well,
that's a tough one, man.
As stable as a pogo stick. So look, we got the USDM team with us today. We have none other than Jillian and James with us. So say hi to everybody, guys.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? Cardano community.
Brian here too. Yeah, we got Brian over there too. So he's just he's like over there.
Yeah, there he is.
Over there he is. No, that's there you go, the other way. Yeah, that's the over there. Wait, no. Anyway, he's somewhere in the interwebs where we're not going to look for him right now. We're going to run out of time. He lives somewhere in the the mountains of Pennsylvania with Punxsutawney Phil.
I don't like him this year. He told me there's 6 more weeks of winter, and he hasn't lied because I was out in the woods yesterday on a hike, and there was definitely still ice and snow on the top of the mountain. So shout out to Punxsutawney Phil.
You're saying he's not correct 100% of the time?
Oh, he was correct this year, but he's usually it varies, man. Right. But it's just a giant party. People go there, and it's just a giant party to hang out with a groundhog. I don't quite get it. I've never been there, but shout out to Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah, favorite thing with that is Bill Murray and Groundhog's Day. Love that.
Yeah. In the words of Bill Murray, television fails to capture the grandeur of a giant squirrel predicting the weather. This is yeah. There you go.
Nice.
Anyway. We're not rednecks from Pennsylvania. We're alternative lifestyle. Anyway, listen, we're here to talk about USDM. We know you, but do we know you? So why don't you just give us a little bit? I'll let Jillian go first. Jillian, kind of give us your background, not the one behind you. I mean, like the proverbial background. Tell us what you're about. Tell us, your favorite Christmas songs. I don't know. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Okay. Well, my professional background is in communications. I was in the Army Reserves. I worked for Department of Homeland Security. I did a lot of political campaigning, and all those capacities. I was in communications, and I parlayed that into a career in advertising. So that's my professional background. In Cardano, more people probably know me as Ada Bookworm. I started with a creative project, an NFT project, writing a book, which I successfully finished. I published basically chapter by chapter. You buy an NFT and you get access to the chapters. And that'll be coming out on Book.io fairly soon. So I'm very excited about that. And then our project here, USDM, was started by my husband, Matthew Plomin. He was a TradFi dinosaur who was getting very into blockchain. All you guys know him. He's been around forever. He unfortunately passed away. But now I am running those companies, W3I and Moneta.
Awesome. Blockjock, I've known you forever. I mean, man. But yeah, please.
So listen, I'm kind of confused. I get confused easy because I'm kind of old, but like, is it like block jock as in like Jenny from the block, or is it more like block jock as in like, you know, the like you're like blocky, or is it, does it like the you know, like, blockchainy stuff? I mean, how what kind of block are you, Jock?
It's a bit of a merge, I would say. I mean, it's kind of a hybrid, right? So I definitely refer to myself as somebody that loves sports, so that's where the jock comes from. The beauty of it is with blockchain and then block jock, that also kind of gives the idea that in that one movie where guy, I think his name was Slim Pickens or something, he's riding the bomb down to the ground, basically he's riding that down. So in essence, kind of like that would be block jock. I think about it in that regard. So yeah, a bit of a rebel. You combine that all together, and not much on rules and things of that nature. And then from there, you've got a combination or a hybrid, which is block or blockchain. And then of course, jock, just riding that lightning, I would say, Daniel, is what I would say. I'm riding the blockchain lightning. That's what I'm doing.
Ride the Lightning. Great album.
Yeah.
1984 Metallica.
Great album.
Yeah.
Great album.
I got the t-shirt. I got the t-shirt.
Don't get block jock started on Metallica. We'll be here for days. So.
Well, that's why.
Convention over that.
Listen, that's why me and Block Jock were just gonna, like, well, for lack of a better word, meld so well.
Oh,
yeah, let's not go there. But we share those common interests. It's one of them happens to be Metallica. I actually received my first batch of hearing damage from a Metallica concert. So back in what was it, 97, I think. Anyway, so give us a little bit of your background, your origin story. What happened? How did you become James, the block jock, USDM guy with a line behind him guy?
Well, I've always kind of leaned into a little bit of the family and the fact that I was a Navy kid. Grew up with a dad who was close to retiring within the Navy at the time. Born in 65, so I've got most of you beat. Most everybody's probably listed as beat as far as the age goes. But from there, grew up pretty much a poor Navy brat. And my mom and dad got together, and from there they were able to kind of pull us out of that and move us out of an area that wasn't as nice, let's say. And then from there, started on my journey, right? And I've always had this question in my head as to, what's right, what's wrong. And then a lot of times with rules and regulations and things of that nature, it wasn't always just reading that and going, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. It didn't make sense sometimes. And from there, I'd always ask questions. So that's always been my life. I'd always ask questions. My son's the same way. So from there, I just started, living my life. Didn't necessarily always make the best decisions. And, I had some, issues as a kid, like some people do. And from there, though, was able to figure that all out and then started on a path. And I was just on fire. So started working for a company that ran toy crane machines. And I quickly, within about a year, became the manager or actually floor manager for that particular company. And then from there, they saw something in me that said, you should probably go out and start to build out routes and develop areas and things of that nature. And they gave me about a 2-hour instructional and then sent me up to Napa. And that's where I started my journey of developing routes and business having to do with toy crane machines, little claw machine toys. That also provided me with a technical experience as well, because they taught me as well on that side. So hardware, things of that nature, building things has always been my forte. And then from there, they also helped me to understand how to build out or administrate and manage people and, building out a business. That then allowed me to then start my own business. I even talked to my boss about it and asked him if that was okay, because it wasn't a conflict of interest. It was in the same general idea. And I went into the freshman industry and was in that for about 25 years. I wore every single hat, learned a lot along the way, and had quite a few mentors that ran businesses, because a lot of the companies, the ones I loved, were the ones that were privately owned, and I would talk to those people all the time. So I got a lot and gleaned a lot of information from them and just soaked it all up, and helped me to understand a little bit better how to run a business. Had some really hard lessons along the way. And from that, though, it's made me really who I am. Blockchain is something that I've felt my entire life. Having self-sovereignty and owning my assets, owning my destiny, and having the ability to be able to do whatever I want within that, as long as it doesn't tread on others, is something that I absolutely feel like it's been a part of me since I was a kid. And when I found about it, Cardano, got, drawn in by Charles's whiteboard video. Next thing you know, I'm in blockchain, and I ran into Brian at Cardano over coffee, and that changed my life. I'm like, I found my tribe. I'm good here, So, yeah, that's pretty much the story, man.
Yeah, interesting.
Quite interesting. Spent a lot of time on Cardano over coffee with you, Blockjock, and definitely it's been awesome to watch your journey from not knowing anything in really crypto to how much you immersed yourself into it and really learned a lot in a short period of time, right? And then you joined the USDM team, and what's your role with Moneta and USDM, and how do you feel that role, and what advantages do you take from your old life that you're using now?
So business development lead is my title, and Matthew brought me in, and I was honored to be asked by him and to be a part of this thing called Mihan at the time. And he wanted to develop a stablecoin. From there, I found myself really getting into the details of what USDM and stablecoin is. And then found myself really thinking this is a very much a long-term thing that I'm going to be doing, and it's not going to be an immediate reward that's going to come from it, and it's going to take a lot of hard work. And everybody I talked to gave me that exact same thing. They told me that this is not some quick, money-making thing. This is something that's going to take actual real money to come in, and you're going to be working on this for quite some time. And I thought about that for about 24, 48 hours before I gave Matt my answer, which is the first time I've ever done that in my life. Usually I just, yep, I'm on it. And then I came back to him and said, you know what, Matt, I'd be honored to be a part of this and start this. And that's how that journey started. Brian, the second part of that question, sorry.
What did you take from what you learned when you were running your own vending business to what you're doing now with USDM?
Think on the fly. No matter what, pay attention to people that are around you, even customers, people that you're talking to. It doesn't matter who it is, where it's coming from. There is some really insightful information that's going to come from that. From there, don't take everything that everybody says here as something that you should be doing or guidance, because that also can take you down the wrong rabbit hole. But my experience running a business allowed me to, over the 25 years, is kind of hardened me into somebody that is still a risk taker, but can also dive deeper into particular subjects, because in blockchain, it really does require that. And then you take it a next level, because we're FinCEN regulated and all the things that go along with that. There are so many rules and regulations you've got to follow and make sure that you're on cue with, right? And so that has been really the biggest learning curve for me. And I can't just, shoot from the hip all the time like I used to do. I did that with multinational companies and presidents, and they loved me for it. But I didn't have to follow any of the rules that they were following, which was cool because I'm just the vendor, right? So this has been a learning experience for me, and one that I have found that I have great honor in being a part of, right? And the confidence that the team shows me in bringing in new business and working with people has been absolutely amazing. And being a team player now versus just being a single, a guy just doing everything on his own, has been a learning experience as well, but has been one that's been extraordinarily rewarding. And I just can't thank the team enough for their confidence and everything they've given me along the way. So.
So you mentioned something throughout that kind of as you were talking, I picked up on it, and that was, you're regulated. One of the things that I remember from Matt was that he wanted to make sure everything was regulated, doing the things properly, right? And we have the same kind of values here at Zengate, right? But I wanted to kind of ask you, the current regulations that are out there right now, how does that really kind of impact the USDM stablecoin? Because the USDM stablecoin is backed by the US dollar, right? So the current regulations, and then I know that we just had kind of like a change in the US government. Do you foresee, and I know you can't foresee the future, but do you see that regulation getting friendlier, or do you see it getting more negative? And I don't know, Jillian and James, whichever one you want to take it.
Yeah, well, we've been working with states because on a federal level, there really has been no guidance. There has been no regulation. You see the SEC trying to shoehorn old regulations that apply to the old way of doing things into crypto, and it simply didn't work. The new administration is definitely going to be friendlier. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we're probably going to see some legislation actually come through. But we have had at least the ability, and what Matt was doing was looking forward at MICA. It went into effect, but we knew like a year or more before what the framework would be. And he designed this token in such a way to not just meet, but exceed those regulations, so that when I go talk to people in Japan, we already meet their standard and, with flying colors. So in that regard, I think we're in a good spot. Would you add anything to that, James?
I think we're absolutely in a good spot, and Jillian's got a great operational mind when it comes to that. We also have had quite a bit of information from Matt's mind because he wrote everything down and thought about every single little thing, and that's one of the things I loved about him. But I think ultimately we will see some new regulation that'll come out recently. We've already seen it with Fit 21 with Haggerty's bill, or not Haggerty's bill, sorry. Actually it is with Haggerty's bill. And then we're also seeing something with French Hill. French Hill is Fit 21, I'm sorry. Bill Haggerty's bill is a Genius Stablecoin Act that's going to be coming out as well. So not to confuse the two. But I think those two are going to give us some at least groundwork to work with. And then from there, the actual words and the definition of those words, in order to be able to take and go, okay, I know which way I'm going now, and here's my rules. That's the most important thing we need.
I'm muted. Oh my God, I'm muted. One of the things that I'm lucky, right? I reside in the state of Pennsylvania, so I can actually use the system that you have in place. And you said, Jillian, that you're working with states. Can you kind of talk us through kind of the process that you have to go through regulation-wise to get into it, be able to bring a state on board? And I'm sure they vary from state to state because that's just the way that it works here in the United States. But can you kind of give us like a basic overlay of how that regulation works?
Sure. So we need to be registered in every state that we want to do business in as a foreign entity, foreign business. And then we need to have an agent in that state. And setting all that up is basically just a lot of government paperwork. Luckily, my experience in government in the past has really been helpful. Oftentimes, you're going to, the local courthouse to get things done, to get paperwork done. But it's fairly, I don't want to say easy, but straightforward. And many of the states are a lot alike. They generally, like, once one state has a rubric, then other states will just copy that. You do see in like California and Hawaii, in New York, they're a little bit more stringent or forward thinking, or trying to trying to single out crypto. And so we have to maneuver those new regulations. But for most states, we're just kind of fitting into the slot that a money transmitter would fit into in any other context. So yeah, it's just slow and arduous because we are working with
the government. in any government, right? And you never know when something's going to change with the government, right? Or they ask for additional information, right? So
yes, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So yeah.
It's like totally getting in line at the DMV, pal. Same thing.
It's exactly. It's very, very similar to that.
Yeah,
so
you know,
take a ticket.
I got some experience with your pain, with the shoehorning thing. You know, you know, during my tenure at IOG, back in, I think it was 2017, we started trying to get ADA on a Japanese exchange, and I'm sure some of you remember that whole thing about getting ADA listed in Japan. And I remember actually filling out the paperwork for the FSA when we were trying to get it approved, we were trying to get it whitelisted. And this was literally a spreadsheet. And the questions, literally probably half the questions on there were just completely irrelevant to what we're doing, because it has to do with, I think, what was it? Issuance of securities, but some sort of like, yielding. It just really completely like, somebody's like, that's close enough. Let's have them fill that out. And then of course in Japan, it has to be done a certain way or else, like short circuits happen. And so that was the thing, and that's one of the reasons why it took so long, is because just making sense out of all this is a chore. I mean, they went through this whole thing where they had all these unregulated exchanges, like CoinCheck. It's funny because Japan was so fixated on, we got, we only do regulated exchanges, whitelisting and all this, but their biggest exchange, CoinCheck, was an unregulated exchange that literally rugged twice. They completely had to shut down operations twice. So I feel your pain, and I guess I mean, I just kind of want to talk to you a little bit more about that process, because we're in that process ourselves as well. Where we don't do unregulated finances, right? So that's the whole point here, right? So it's you're future proofing yourself. So that's why you're working with the regulators, that's why you're working with the lawmakers, trying to make sense of the legislation. Kind of elaborate more on that, Jillian, for us. I mean, do you do do you do lobbying? Do you do workshops? How do you go about really trying to have any kind of effect, any kind of influence on any of this lawmaking? Because, like, for example, right now we're going through something in the Seychelles where they actually changed the regulatory framework for token launches, because you have to get it approved by the FSA. But now the FSA basically has scrutinizes the launches a lot more, and so they started kind of saying okay, well, we need this extra documentation and we need this extra documentation, and it's almost like they learn as they go in a lot of these things, and that's what people don't realize. People looking from the outside, they don't understand what you do, really don't realize that a lot of these regulations, especially with a tool like yours, are something that they're like making up. They're trying to make sense out of themselves. So how do you have influence on something like that? Do you have influence on something like that? Do you go out there and try to do this?
It's really beyond our bandwidth at this time to try and influence policy. But you do see Charles doing that. What he's doing is the right thing to be doing, talking directly to the legislators, the people who are going to be writing those laws and educating them. And he's put together an office to work towards that. And I'm excited, and I will probably, try to participate as much as I can in that regard. But just as us, as USDM, the best that we can do is talk to the actual paper pushers that we have to interact with. And first of all, set our own standards high, so that when they come back and they ask for the extra paperwork, the documents and stuff like that, we're on top of it. It's evident that we know what we're doing. And then when other businesses come forward and are starting things, then they will be familiar with what it should look like and the right way to do things. And we kind of are hoping to set the expectation high in the industry, both just for Cardano, for crypto. The crypto industry does not have the best reputation, and that's something that we all collectively need to work to fight against and to reframe the story so that we can be like respected as a regulated entity.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It is not an easy task. I feel your pain because we did the same thing with Palm and Palmyra, and yeah, it's a very slow moving thing, but you have to do it. Now, I want to touch a little bit on adoption. Maybe James, maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit. So, I know you have to know. You're in the community that there is this, factions. We need to bring USDC on the chain. We need to bring USDT on chain. No, we got USDM. No, we got JED. Some have a point, or in different kind of in different segments they have a point. But you are the kind of the premier stable coin on Cardano right now. So how do you drive that adoption on Cardano of stables? Because that's for many, that's like a pain point. We don't have solid stables on Cardano. What do you mean? We have USDM. You have, then that's one of several. So how do you kind of bring that to the people where they, where they utilize it more, where they feel like they're backed by it, like they can hedge with it? How do you do that?
I think first and foremost is education. All right. So you need to help the end user in order to be able to understand that it's a very daunting experience to think that I'm going to do all of this on my own. Typically you allow banks, you allow, money managers, things of that nature. You'll talk to somebody that shows you a chart. This is where you're going to be, and this is where you're going to end up when you're 60. And this is how much you're going to need to save in order to do that. And so we tend to let other people kind of manage that for us. In blockchain, it's a little different, right? So we have the ability to make these decisions on ourselves. This also means that we need to start doing a lot of research and looking into it a little bit more. The problem with it is in some cases we get information that isn't necessarily the best. We're not seeing good ideas or good advice as to what to do. And there's a lot of influencers currently, self-appointed, let's say, that have made their way into our space, and because they're early, I suppose, and from there are giving bad information, and or let's say just not as good information as they should be getting. So I currently think that education is going to be the key component here, and the other part of that is the simplicity within all the UI UX that for every dApp that's currently on here. I propose to everybody, instead of thinking like a developer, instead of thinking like a nerd who just thinks about, well, this is logically the way it should go, they should then start to think, well, how would people illogically handle this? How would they interact with this thing? And what kind of mistakes would they make along the way? And make it much easier, make it much more tactile, where, a perfect example is something where you press a button in the beginning to start a transaction, and there's nothing visually indicating that something's happening. And when I talk to my developer, I'm like, we're going to need something there that shows that something's actually happening. He goes, why would we need that? You just press the button, and then they should know that it's going okay. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen, because most people are not developers. They don't have the screen running to the right showing what's happening on the DApp as it's happening. And they're just waiting for some sort of next thing to happen. And they're going to need an indicator. That then makes them feel comfortable that they're in the space. Why? Because they're in something that's entirely new. They've heard a bunch of people have been ripped off or robbed from it, and they are nervous. So you need to give them a little bit of an indication and help and understanding, and go that extra mile in order to make sure that they feel comfortable. And I think that's probably one of the more important things that we can do. So when talking to developers, anybody that's working and building a DApp, talking about those things that they're doing. One is business acumen. Most are developers. They don't have a lot of business acumen, and or they've only been in business for a short period of time. And you need to kind of help them understand what it means to think past 6 months or a year, and start to think 2 to 5 year and what you're planning on doing there, right? Then from there, you'll start to help your UI UX guys develop something that is much easier to understand. Give them a slide bar that says, this is how much risk I'm willing to take. And then I want to put this much risk in. And this is how much I'm willing to invest. Here is my actual understanding of blockchain. I have 1 year's worth of blockchain. What is your intent for coming into blockchain and going into DeFi? Are you thinking meme coins, or are you thinking long-term generational wealth? What's the variance between that? And then just start them on the journey. And then from there, the rest of it, I think, for those who are interested in being self-sovereign, will then start to go down the rabbit holes and figure out for themselves what works best, right? So to me personally, that's probably one of the key things that I do with everybody that I work with. And then on top of that, ensure that USDM is placed. We want brand awareness within USDM. That's extraordinarily important within our community. And also, most everybody knows that we're in this for the community part of it. We're a community-driven project and by community members, and we have nothing but the best intentions for Cardano and everybody that's in it. So as long as we're doing those, I'm doing those two things, everything else just falls into place, Dan.
Yeah, and you know what? As long as I've been in blockchain, I still feel nervous sending crypto into the abyss, into the the blockchain abyss. My old guy kind of brain is like, I know I can check the TX on chain, but I'm just like, I just need like a little spinning wheel or something, your transaction is being processed. Don't worry. You didn't send it to some wrong address to a Nigerian prince, that's always in the back of my mind.
Wait a minute. He's not sending me all my money back?
Brian, you will always be my Nigerian prince.
Good.
Well,
clip that. Please clip that.
Well, listen. This is all really great stuff. I always had the highest respect for what you guys did. I remember when you were just starting, and I was like, "Who the hell are these guys?" Because that's what I usually do. It was like, "Who the hell are these guys?" I take it on with some skepticism, but then like, all right, let me see. Oh, okay, all right, yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you did hire Pyro though, so I don't know. Wait
a minute, you hired Pyro also.
That's true. You did hire Pyro as well. Yeah,
come on,
I'll take
man.
complete ownership. That was my idea to bring in Alex.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't go there. Anyway, no, he's all right most of the time. But listen. Okay, so Brian, I think maybe you might want to ask the same question. I just kind of want to ask. So we do have other stables, right? We have other stables on Cardano. We have JET. We have a few of them actually. Some a lot less.
A new one, USDA, I think, just came out.
USDA that always kind of makes me hungry. I mean, it's look. What Why should we want a USDM? Why not USDA or USDB or USD whatever? What makes you different? I mean, I know, but I think people really have to realize, and I hope that you can tell, maybe Jillian, maybe James, you can kind of both elaborate on it. Why is USDM different? Aside from the fact that you are doing it the right way, regulatorily speaking, right? Technology wise, why is it different? What what can you do that others can do? What can you do that even, like, say, the USDTs and USDCs of the world can't do? So talk about that a little bit, please.
I think the linchpin is that every transaction touches base with an oracle that feeds directly into our bank accounts. You can be crystal clear certain that that money is there, not on a quarterly basis, not on a monthly basis, but on a daily basis. And it's, the intent was to set a bar incredibly high for ourselves when it comes to transparency and when it comes to giving our customers, our end customer, the security that the money is there. There's no stablecoin on Cardano other than us who can say that. You can't even check. Can you check USDA's funds? Jed, the algorithmics is a different scenario altogether. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But even USDC, it's the only one that comes close to being as transparent as us. And most people think that, a one sheet of paper audit once a month that says they have the funds they say they have. It doesn't even really specify, what funds they're in, what the makeup is, how much it is, So I think for that reason, our product is superior. And you could only find it on Cardano right now. And yeah.
And Dan, I think to add to that, go ahead.
Yeah, and maybe you can cover the James. I'll interrupt you there, but I really wanted you to also kind of touch on first, clawbacks. Okay, I mean the name kind of explains it sort of, but can you really kind of explain why? Because some people say, well, it's okay because, if you got some criminals doing criminal stuff, you can decriminal the criminal stuff and, you can claw it back and it's okay. Explain to us, what are they, and just kind of, why we don't want them?
I think clawbacks, obviously. Go ahead, Jillian, if you have something to comment on there.
No, we're talking specifically clawbacks on chain, right? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Jim, if you want to address it.
So I think ultimately, I love the idea of being a free range crypto. So you think about it like you get to be able to cruise around, do whatever you want, wherever you want within the ecosystem. USDM has that ability and will always have that ability. The one thing that can happen though with clawbacks is that when you enter into our app, we do have KYC and AML that we have to follow. I have my compliance officers words in my head with Edward, and it's important to remember that we need to follow all those, right? So KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering, ensure that anybody on the OFAC list, if they're put onto that list, then has to, if it is warranted, then that can be frozen. It can only be frozen at the app, entry points, exit points. That's the only time. Within the ecosystem itself, currently it cannot. Now, however, if you're in a smart contract, let's say over on Liquid or some other thing, and they start having to go through compliance and work with all those people and identify their customers, then from there, they can also do it there while sitting within that smart contract. So I think it's important to remember as an end user to know your rights, know what's going on, ensure that you are following the rules, that normally most people follow. And then from there, enjoying our ecosystem, being able to garner yields, leveraging, and all the things that go along with that. But yeah, you're right, Dan. It's important to discern between what happened with the Polygon bridge hack with USTC. And for anybody that doesn't know, I think that was like $620 million, I believe, that the guy had hacked through the bridge hack. And during that time, live and on-chain, people were sending him information as to what was going on. And then he put a lot of it into USTC. It was then immediately frozen. And a lot of people were shocked at that time that that happened because they didn't realize that USDC is on a smart contract based blockchain. And that smart contract also included within the contract the ability to be able to freeze that asset at any time by USDC representatives. And then from there, you know, he lost all that. He then quoted later that he was a gray hat. He was just checking or testing, which was funny. And I think he actually got hired by one of the governmental agencies, to be honest, I believe. We're not really sure on that now, but yeah, so this is something that just differentiates us from any other stablecoins, simply because, you know, we're living in Cardano. On the algorithmic side, Jed, for example, it's the reason we started the entire thing. It's the reason Matt started this entire thing, was he just put out a statement, in essence, almost like a blog post, having to do with the capital inefficiency that Jed currently has. You have to 4x your backing in order to make sure that it always will stay within certain realms in order to be able to be used. And then if it doesn't, it then stops working altogether. I'm not sure that something for me personally that I would be interested in using, simply because then that takes away my ability to be able to have control over it. With USDM, that's not the case. So it's one-to-one, very simple. Simple is better. And at any time, just like the co-founder of USDT said during the DeFi Summit, at any time when you decide to take your dollar and take it out, even if it's depeg, it's still worth the dollar when you go to burn it. It doesn't matter where it's at within the blockchain. You can wait for it to repeg if you want, but ultimately that's something I don't think you need to worry about, because Charlie 3, the Oracle, does daily attestations. They're third party that we have no control over whatsoever. That is done independently of us in order to ensure that everybody knows you can trust us. We're good.
Yeah, that's I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And that's actually I mean, you kind of described one of the reasons why I myself got into RWAs, is because behind you know, every you know, tokenized batch of provenance is a product that is that provenance is attached to, so you can actually see the product, right? It's not just, it doesn't live in this magic world of blockchainy stuff. Now, you know, and I gotta say, I want to talk to you about liquidity. Now, just FYI, and I kind of wanted to share this with the group, but for some reason, even though I, you know, again, I've been in this thing for a long time and I know what liquidity is, that's liquidity. It makes me think of milkshakes. I don't know why. It makes me want to, like, every time somebody starts talking about liquidity, I'm like, milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
And they're like, you know, better than yours, and you know, I teach you, but I'd have to charge. So we don't have time for that right now. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's kind of put it out, right? So how do you ensure that we have enough liquidity? And I mean, you know, that kind of has been some, you know, some of your critics kind of threw that out. I think, you know, that there's not enough liquidity in USDM to sustain, you know, to sustain the viability they want to see for USDM to have. So how do you make sure that there is liquidity for this kind of stuff?
Well, my argument would be that that's dependent on the market. Does Cardano have the market for it? Does Cardano have the liquidity to support, what do we have, 4 or 5 stables now? But that argument that USDM doesn't have enough liquidity, it could apply to all of the stables on Cardano. And the question is, does Cardano actually have enough of a market for stables? And people like you, what you're doing is an example of bringing that market to Cardano. So this has always been a team effort, right? We, you know, who's going to help me grind the grain? Who's going to help me mix the dough? Everybody wants to eat the bread. But it takes many, many projects doing many different things, all of which that need dollars to flow globally in order to produce the liquidity that is needed. And without the team effort, it's not going to be there. We've created the oil for the engine. Now we need everybody else in the ecosystem to put on the other parts. And we're all just building this car as it's rolling down the road. And we're doing our part. We've got a lot of partners, liquidity partners that are helping out. And it's basically Jim's job to continue adding to that list of liquidity providers and partners. But for me, the main thing is thinking beyond the liquidity to the liquidity provider, to the business that's producing something of value for end users who actually need that thing. That's what we need. And the liquidity will come if the demand is there. I think, individuals in the community, all the different, you've got fluid tokens, we've got the stuff we're doing with kind of bridging over to Bitcoin. All of these things are going to be factors when it comes to pulling in liquidity. And when the demand is there, we will be there to meet it. We are already built and ready to meet that demand when it comes. And it's trickling in. I think everybody expected a waterfall, but it's trickling in. And it'll get here when it gets here. And if you are one of the people sitting there behind your PFP saying that there's not enough liquidity, I would say, what are you doing specifically to provide liquidity? I don't care if it's $10 worth of liquidity. What are you specifically doing? Because if you aren't doing anything yourself to provide liquidity, then I don't care what you have to say.
I know one thing that you guys have recently done is, and I'm working through it with BlockJock and through some channels through a beta program, I believe, with taking USDC or USDT from Ethereum and then minting to USDM, right? And why is that important to someone like me? Well, first off, if you don't know, I live on crypto, right? I live on crypto. I spend ADA almost every day, right? Almost every day, not every day. But I use Coinbase card, right? So that's how I spend my crypto. I actually live the crypto life. But what I want to be able to do is take that USDC and move it over to USDM to provide liquidity. And you guys are providing that route, which is another route that businesses like Zengate and Palmyra will be able to take advantage of some point. If a producer wants to buy, or a buyer wants to buy in Ethereum, we could take that, turn it into USDC, then buy our Palm token for our rebates, right? So we'd go from USDC to USDM, right, to the Palm, back to the rebate fees to our stakers. So I thought that, like you say, you guys are doing your part, and I thought that was an amazing thing that you guys had thought of and build out and are building out, right? BlockJock, can you talk a little bit about maybe where that idea came from and just how you plan on taking advantage of that?
Well, it makes perfect sense that since we're a community-driven project, that the community be involved in it, and it takes everybody in order to basically empower Cardano in its DeFi space. Giving each individual end user the ability to be able to go mint their own token is something that USDC started with, but they closed off the books after a while and just left it to institutions instead. I do believe that we'll continue to keep doing this for the entire time that I'm alive, at least, in order to make sure that each individual user has a choice as to how to do that. And then the ability to be able to do that, so they can, have an on-off ramp in order to be able to access or buy goods, or bring it in order to leverage, or whatever the case may be. So that's probably one of the more important things to do. I'd say having to do with liquidity, on the other hand, and market makers. Market makers are key to our particular space. I know a lot of people talk about the chicken and egg thing. I don't believe that actually is a thing. And I'm not, because it's always like an excuse, or it's chicken and egg. It's like, it is what it is. And I'm like, no, let's think about this a little bit more, and not just excuse it and then move on to the next thing because we can't solve this problem. Instead, start to think about how exactly do you put your boots on. You grab them one at a time, you use your own hands, and then you go and put your boots on and then start to walk yourself. This is something that I've been part of my life the entire time. I started out with one machine and I built it out to 150 machines and was working with some of the largest companies in the world, and that simply became because I just started with one step and I put my boots on first. So it's important for us, since we've just gone into the age of Voltaire, in order to understand that we now have complete control of a $1.5 billion treasury, or 1.5 billion ADA treasury, right? And we now have the ability to be able to propose governance actions that can then further our exposure into the wider crypto space, and more importantly, into the traditional sectors of our economy, like what Palmyra is doing with Zengate and tokenizing real world assets. This is important for a variety of reasons. So there's a proposal that's currently out right now that is done by Elder, Millennial, and Marco. That is going around, and the current version is out on GovTools. If you haven't seen it yet, please go do so. It's also on Cardano Forum. You can go to my particular user account and click on the link there, and it'll take you to it. Please provide your comments, things of that nature. I'll get off my sales pitch. But then from there, what we can do is then access and put in 50 million ADA spaced out over a 12-month period into our DeFi ecosystem and allow for it to grow itself. That, in essence, is Cardano putting its own boots on and deciding its own destiny, and not look to outside entities to help us. USDC, USDT, maybe down the road will be attractive enough to where, as Brian said, our milkshake will bring all the boys to the yard, and that's fine. But ultimately, at this point, we have to make sure that we first, look good. Right? Be presentable. When we show up, actually, the meetings will become a lot easier when you show up at a meeting and you're representing yourself with a huge user account and a bunch of liquidity in DeFi. And then ways of actually leveraging that, through RWAs like what Zengate's doing, and or going to DeFi with Liquid. And none of this is new, by the way. It's all been done before in Ethereum in 2020. When they did it, right? So there's a thing called Compound. That did a pretty good job of that, leveraging in their DeFi space, and created DeFi Summer. So I think we can do that here. It's important, though, to remember that we can do it ourselves. We don't require outside forces in order to make that happen.
Yeah. I got one more question for him, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Talking about kind of liquidity and all this, and I recently noticed, and I don't know if this is like a partnership that you guys have with NBX or how this all came about, but Hosky token is now paired on this exchange with USDM. One of the things that I've always said as somebody who traded a lot back in 2017, 2018, was we need stablecoin pairs versus our native tokens, right? Whether that's Hosky, Snake, Palm token, Iagon. There should always be a stable. As a trader, I'm trading for US dollars, right? So I want to be able to trade in and out in the US dollars, not the versus ADA pair. So one of the things I've seen is this new thing with Hosky doing the USDM pair. Kind of talk about how that came about. Do you have a partnership with NBX, or how did that all work out that came about?
Yeah, well, we, Matt and Einstein had a relationship very early on and talked a lot. And out of that grew the partnership with NBX. They are our official co-issuer in the EU. I know that they cover something like 190 countries. So that brings access to USDM to practically the whole world, due to just making sure that this is all regulatory compliant and putting the right things in place. That takes time. But as those things get put in place, there will be global access essentially to USDM through NBX, on top of the things that we are doing globally as well. So yeah, that's an official partnership. We love those guys. They're very helpful and very supportive, and they always have been, even before the official partnership. But that's how that relationship works. They are officially co-issuers with Moneta Digital.
That makes sense. That makes sense, because I was wondering how that was kind of set up apart, since you guys technically, so they're the co-issuers, which is really cool. And I hope to see NBX continue to succeed in more USDM pairs on their account, right? Because as that grows, more liquidity comes into the system without people really even trying to provide liquidity to USDM, because they're purchasing and using that pair. So go ahead, Dan.
Well, I just kind of wanted to ask James, Jillian, how do people get involved? How can, what can we do to set you up for success as a community, and individually, what can we do? Well, aside from, using USDM.
Definitely using the token is great. Right now we have our beta retail program going on. If you go to our website, there's a link for getting involved in the beta, and you can, if you are in the areas that we operate in, one of our states that we operate in, then you can mint. You can actually mint. You can be a liquidity provider. I want to say the minimum mint is about $1,000. Jim, is that? Yeah.
That's correct.
So for the low price of $1,000, you can be a liquidity provider. You can be one.
There's no fee. That's one thing that is really nice, is there's no fee to mint.
Zero.
No fee to mint. There is a fee to burn, because we don't want you to do that. It's 0.5%. So we have actually lowered it from 1.5 down to 0.5%. So that's been an improvement. And then also, we, being a community project, we wanted to find a way for the community to take ownership of the project. And so if you go to investinw3i.com, you can become a shareholder and own stock. We're not doing an ICO, we're not doing tokens. It's legitimate shares, the way that, we are SEC regulated in that way. So you can become a shareholder, and you can become an owner. And if you go to that website, it'll take you through the steps, and you can read through all the documentation that we submitted to the SEC, and you can see what your rights will be as a shareholder. In addition to your legal rights, we will be going to those shareholders to make decisions about things when we start the foundation, and we look to support other Cardano projects. Shareholders will have a vote in who we support, and in many other things too. So that is kind of our version of a DAO, since we can't legally do a DAO. That's how we decided to bring the community in and make them part owners. And if you go to investinw3i.com, it will route you to our chain raise. That is good. It's been going on for like 9 months now. It will be closing at the end of May. And so act now. The sale ends soon.
Act now. Operators are standing by.
Yeah. But,
by operators, we mean BlockJock.
Yeah.
That is true.
I'm very excited about, because we've had a lot of support from the community. And it's really, really fun to see familiar names come in as true blue investors. And they're really putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, when it comes to supporting the creation of USDM and everything that we're building hereafter. One thing to understand is that W3I is not just USDM. We are starting with USDM. That's our first product, but we are going to be so much more from there. We are looking to bridge the gap between TradFi and DeFi, and we're not going to stop until Cardano is the place to be for all of that.
Well, great. I mean, it's great information. It's a great way to participate, I think. And that's actually definitely a very robust way to get involved. Like I said, the obvious way is to buy and to use the token. But yeah, there's all these different ways. You can invest in the company. You can, you can follow the USDM official account. It's down there over there. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, that's great.
So
okay.
I want to do the rapid.
Yeah, I was going to tell you. You
I was wondering.
Fire.
I'm going to do. Listen, we did this little fun section towards the end before we close. This is the rapid fire. I'm going to ask a question. You guys are just going to give me like 1-2 word answers, and I want one from each of you. Jillian, you get to go first. So actually, no, we'll make Block Jock answer first, and then you could feed off his answer. So that may give you time to think about it a little bit, right? So I'm going to start. I'm going to answer from both of you. Block Jock, if you could tokenize any real world asset tomorrow, what real world asset would it be?
It would be tea, and then it would be coffee, and then it would roll into precious metals.
Sounds like something we're doing. Jillian, what would it be for you?
I like real estate.
Real estate, interesting. Yeah. One word to describe Cardano's impact on the blockchain space, Block Jock.
You went to that one first, huh? So one word to describe Cardano's impact: freedom. It's the best one. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Jillian?
I would say scandalous. And scandalous in terms of, on every other chain, there's a lot of number go up. There's a lot of scamminess. There's a lot of money. And we're actually weird for being focused on things like security and how can we get governments to put their vote.
We're nerds. We're nerds.
The idea that we're thinking about things that aren't entirely money focused, that we're trying to be a solution to so many legitimate world problems that are not just, pump my bags.
Pump my bags. Speaking of that,
scandalous in the crypto realm.
Speaking of pump my bags, your go-to phrase when explaining blockchain to newcomers, Block Jock. Your go-to phrase.
So I think it's you have to think about it from the point of we are going into the digital era. We are currently thinking of digital dollars, not fiat paper dollars anymore. It's much easier to transact in that particular thing. So I start there first, just talking about that particular subject. I have an intimate knowledge of that simply because I watched through the pandemic. My credit card sales went from 40% of total sales.
This rapid question just got really long.
I know, 70%, but ultimately from there, I know. You know me, I'm a little long form. From there,
all right.
I allow them to ask a little bit more about Cardano.
What little bit of fun, Jillian? What is your favorite crypto meme? What is your favorite crypto meme?
I mean, does Hosky count? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess I'd have to pick Hosky.
I always enjoy how his people always put stickers on the back of everybody at events. It just makes me laugh every time. Speaking of now, non-Hosky, Block Jock, if crypto had a mascot, what would it be? If blockchain had a mascot, what would it be?
I personally think an eagle. Call me crazy. I particularly love the eagle.
That's such an American answer.
It is a very American answer. Either that or, we can pick the raccoon.
The Eagles are pretty good,
Philadelphia Eagles.
Eagles are pretty good. Eagle or raccoon?
Somebody's got a problem with the Eagles, I think. I don't know what problem with the Eagles are.
As long as we're not talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, we're fine, Dan.
Oh man. One last one, Jillian. What is the craziest use case for blockchain you've ever heard of?
Craziest use for blockchain? You know what? I don't know if I would call it crazy. I would call it maybe off the wall. But there is, if you follow, I think his handle is Crypto Meditator or something. He's using blockchain to basically bring mental health resources to people. And I would not explain it nearly as well as he does, but it's very intriguing, and it's definitely like that's kind of like way down the line. We'll get to the point where you're booking your appointment with your shrink or whatever in your wallet.
I just call Dan when I need my shrink. I just call Dan. Like, Dan, got a story to tell me. So
yeah. It's usually just like a 20-minute rant about random stuff. Actually, actually, Vagalos is a Zengate alumni. So,
Wow.
yeah.
He hung out with us for a while and helped us with a lot of stuff, and then he kind of moved on and is doing his own thing. But shout out to Vagelis. But that's kind of it. That's it.
I always
Dan, take over.
The name, it's V. He said to call him something else, but I'm just like, I can't say that with a straight face. Anyway, I gotta say, I want to answer that question. You know what the craziest? I don't know. Okay, you tell me. Back in the day, I used to do all of Charles's like biz dev emails, right? So anytime anybody emailed Charles back in like 2017, 2018, they would just send all these emails to me, and I had to go triage through them, and I look for opportunities and things like that. And so this one guy, I think he's actually local in Japan. He's not Japanese, but he's somewhere in Tokyo, I think. First he came at me with something really mundane. It was something like connections to some like developers, something very like normal. And then he started talking to me about how we need to put the human mind on the blockchain. He was gonna put the human brain on the blockchain. So that was like his thing. He says, so how many TPS can you guys do? Because we can't lose any more brilliant minds. They have to go on the blockchain. And so that was like a thing, he wanted to put the human mind on the blockchain.
That's quite an interesting one.
For that. Maybe Solana does. I don't know. It's like, I also had this one guy.
We need Hydra.
Hydra, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was the same guy. Maybe it was a different guy. So like this other guy. This is back in the day. This is in the beginnings, in the primordial stages. I had this other guy who was convinced that Charles was actually a reincarnation of an Aztec god that was prophesized by like. And he showed me these tablets. Like these guys, like, see the symbol? That's Charles. That is Charles, okay? That is proof that the ancient Aztecs prophesized Charles is coming.
I knew it.
That is him.
I knew it.
Stan, you just gave me a vision of Charles with feathers and being an Aztec god now. Thank you.
Yeah, playing basketball with human skulls. That's or is that going too far?
I can see it happening. So
yeah. Well,
it's possible. Anything's possible.
You never know. We might have to Fight Club this out at some point.
So, Jim, anything you want to kind of, before we close up, any last words you want to get out, and then we'll let Jillian go, and then Dan can close up the shop?
Yeah, I want to let everybody know that it's through your ideas, through your ingenuity, through your motivation to make Cardano the best it possibly can be. And through that, you make USDM the best it possibly can be. So get involved in some way. It's up to you. You can do literally whatever you want here. It doesn't require any permission of any sort. You can just get involved, go to a particular Discord, start to ask questions, and next thing you know, you're a part of some group. Next thing you know, you're talking to people about how to create some sort of new tech that's going to make Cardano and blockchain and help people around the world make their lives better. I can't think of a better layer to work on than this one in order to impact as a single person that develops into a group in order to create impact into people's lives in such a direct manner. And by the way, it happens without any intermediaries. It doesn't require anybody giving you permission or any laws or anything of that nature. You can just go do it. You have an idea and a thing that you want to do, just go do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. And remember, I keep telling myself all the time, start and the pressure is off. That is the main thing. Keep telling yourself that, let go of all your inhibitions and fears. And then from there, just get started and the pressure is off. This place is amazing. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of this. Dan, I absolutely adore you. I remember the first time I met you at Rare Bloom. The man sat there in front of the Cardano or Starbucks and watched everybody. He was perfect. He sat there and everybody had to walk by him. Genius as far as getting himself out there and making sure, and I'm like, this guy's a genius. You got to watch out for this guy. On top of the fact his intellect and his humor.
And he's 37 feet tall, so like, how could you not miss him?
You can't miss him. Even when he's sitting down, he's that tall. It's crazy. So you got to look up to somebody when they're sitting down. It's nuts. And Brian, on the other hand, the ability to be able to understand blockchain, and then the heartfelt thing that comes from Brian, in the way he kind of grabs you and lets you know that it's okay, and dispels a lot of the fears and misunderstandings and things of that nature, simply because of just his energy. It's absolutely amazing. It's infectious, and it's one of the reasons that I'm still in this particular space today. So I want to thank you guys for everything that you're doing, including all of the team, Sam, everybody that's over there working their butts off to do what you guys are doing. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you for that, guys.
Thank you. Jillian, anything you want to sign off with?
Yeah, we've had a tumultuous past couple of years, and the community has been such a wonderful support through everything. And you guys know why I'm getting emotional right now, but I just can't thank you guys enough, especially for, through Matt's passing. It has been such a huge blessing to be a part of this community and have you guys supporting us. So with that, check us out on our websites, invest if you want to invest. But thank you for everything.
Thank you for bringing Matt and yourself to the ecosystem, right? Without you guys, we wouldn't have USDM, and the way that you guys have built it is amazing. And your vision and Matt's vision, when I first met him for USDM, and many conversations that we had in Cardano, I mean, hours and hours of conversation, to see this vision continue after his passing. He's hanging out up there with my brother talking about USDM. I know it for sure. So thank you. And thank you guys for all your hard work. And I can't wait to look forward to you helping and helping bring liquidity through USDM on my own personal, and with ZenGate doing things that we're doing. Dan, you want to wrap her up?
Yeah, Matt was a tremendous guy. It's and I mentioned this on the space before, but I don't know, just something hit me in this extra hard when he passed, because I'm a father too, and it's not just one life or two lives that get affected, and I right away I thought about the kids as well, and I mean it's I don't have the words to describe the feeling that I still have, when I think about Matt, when I think about what you, Jillian, have gone through, and how strong you are. I mean, you're like, it's tremendous how strong you are. After all of this, you're still here, you're still doing this business, you're pushing this ahead. This is, I don't even know what to call that. We will always be there for you as a company and as a team. I just want you to know that I'm always there for you and for you guys for anything. It's funny. After Matt passed, I was looking through my messages, and I found one unread message from him. And for the longest time, I kept it unread because I wanted to have one last unread message from Matt. And finally, I just read the message. But before I did that, I took a screenshot of it. I said that was the last unread message from Matt. I don't know. It's kind of was my way of dealing with this. So like I said, I just really wanted to say that I beyond admire your strength. And like I said, Dan, we at ZenGate and Palmyra, and we as a community are there for you and behind you. So you're not alone ever. So I just wanted to say that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was great to have you. Yeah, it's fantastic what you're doing. It's great to be partners with you because you're going to be using USDM on Palmyra. Really looking forward to working even closer together. Really looking forward to seeing, USDM bloom and just grow into what it is, what it's meant to be into its full potential. And yeah, just like I said, just very happy to see another team building the way we, the way all of us, like, we share that same mentality of the grind. So I'm just really, really happy to be able to, work with somebody like you guys. All right, well, everybody, thank you for watching this exciting episode of The Mainstream. Brian is all for peace. James is for rock and roll, and Jillian
Let's
is.
Go.
Yeah,
she's like me. I don't know either, Jillian. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. And we're gonna call it a wrap. So this is Dan coming to you, barely alive but still kicking from Japan. Signing off.
Thanks, everybody.